guys, it's time for another lovely, chilled, relaxed craft along, kind of slash craft your stash. So when it comes to the craft together, usually what we tend to do is we'll follow along with that kind of form that we like to do when it comes to a craft along. The only difference is we don't give you the info and the details ahead. We just give you the heads up as what we're going to be looking at. You can grab it and then we can then craft along and do something together. We're going to do something a little bit different. We're actually going to do something I've been wanting to do for ages. Now, I could easily fill a 2-hour show, but I've got a 1-hour show, so we'll get what we can done within this hour. And it's actually looking at a guillotine, so looking, of course, at our V-blade paper trimmer, which I've just realised I've not got my V-blade paper trimmer, but we can get that just shortly. And then we've got our cutting implements, our cutting tool as well as our swivel cutting tool. And the reason being is we get asked quite a lot about the cutting tools and the implements, and we go over them and we answer them when it comes to little sections within our Crafters TV shows. But I thought let's just have a good dedicated hour where we can look at these kind of cutting tools here. So it is me and it is you. We've got Beck on social, and I'm very lucky today because not only is it Jamie that we've got in the gallery right next door in my ear, George is back. George is back. Now, many of you that do watch, of course, CTV will know that he's been back for, well, a few days or so now. However, this is not only my first show working with George, it's actually the first day that I've seen George since he's come back. So it's really, really good to have George. Many of you will remember that Instagram reel that I done of, I think it was it Spice Girls Goodbye? Clinging on to George's leg, or please don't go. We'll need to do an updated one with clinging on. It's like as he's walking back in, going, don't go back in, don't go back in. Joking, of course. So yeah, so it's lovely to have George here. So it's George and Jamie, and then as I say, Becca's on the social. Jake is about going out there somewhere. Just to say, although I've kind of got an idea of what I want to show you in that, still, as always, any questions? I know we've already got a question just coming through already, but yeah, if there is anything specific that you want to be asking, as I said, we're going to look at guillotine, we're going to look at the V-blade paper trimmer, we're going to look at the craft knife and the swivel blade, and then I'm also going to bring in the glass mat and the self-healing mat just to show you kind of which one works best, or where you might want to use one of the cutting tools over the other one. So before we delve in here, what I want to do is we've got Trudy is saying hello everyone from Central Florida, saying hello. Jane Adams is saying good morning everyone from a fabulous Las Vegas. We've got Lynn Morton is saying good afternoon, Craig, CTV team, Becky and all the team from Newcastle, just up the road there. Louise Burton is saying hello everyone. We've got Love to Create saying hello Craig, Becky and all the team. Laurie Barnett saying hi Craig, watching from Gilbert, Arizona. We've also got Rebecca Dancer saying hello Craig, Becky, Jamie and George. And we've got Trudy is saying, going on about a cutting knife. Now do not worry, you're really not wanting to get on here today, are you? He was on his tiptoes, Jake, handing in that V-blade paper trimmer. Jake, lot of love for you yesterday doing the Scottish accent. Lot of love. Because I don't know if you know, but I put it on my Instagram. Yeah, he knows. Yeah, if you didn't see yesterday, you can always go back on Crafters Companion YouTube. As you can probably tell, we've got the doors open because it's rather warm in here. Motorbike going past. But yeah, you can go back and watch all of our Crafters Companion shows on YouTube. And then, of course, doors closed now. And then, of course, you can go back and then you can watch that little clip that I clipped out from yesterday's show. It's on my Instagram story with myself and Jake doing the Scottish accent. So, right, got a couple of questions here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to read them, the 3 that I've got at the moment, and then I'm going to delve in. We'll start to cover these questions as well. We've got our Francine on YouTube is saying, hi Craig, I have the large guillotine. She's saying the arm pulls out, but it never stays in place. It's always at a lowered position when marking and making the measurements harder to read. Could I be doing something incorrectly? We'll cover that just in a moment for you. Trudy said, not sure what the swivel cutting tool is for. Don't you worry, I've got you covered. So we'll go over that one just shortly as well. And then we've got Louise Burton is saying, could Craig show me how to cut a square from the card using the paper trimmer? I think you call it gutting. Don't you worry, I'm on the ball. That's on my list as well. And I will explain when we get to the V-blade trimmer why I firmly believe every paper crafter should have a V-blade paper trimmer. Because believe it or not, this can do everything There's a couple of things that a Guillotine, any brand that you get, Guillotine can't do. One of them is gutting, which we'll show you just shortly. Now, if you're just new to these kind of craft together shows slash your craft your stash, they're not like what we would class as a selling show. There's no details at the side of that. I'm not giving you prices, anything like that. All that I'm going to say is have a look on our website, .co.uk.com.au. Have a look to see what we've got. Go into the search engine and the actual website, put Guillotine, paper trimmer, craft knife, all that sort of stuff, and you'll find it there across on the website as well. So always have a look. One of them that we're going to start off with, and I am going to focus on the large Guillotine, because what you can do with the large Guillotine, you can do with the small. The only difference, of course, the size. So you can't do big on the small Guillotine. Of course, that's why we tend to use the larger one. But everything I say for the large Guillotine stands for the small Guillotine as well. So when it comes to the actual Guillotine itself, first and foremost, what's the one visual difference to, of course, our Guillotine is the fact is we've got a scoring tool at the top. So if you want to then score, you can do that because you've got all of these channels down the middle here. Now what you can do is you can just slot that back in when it's not needed, and you have got centimetres and you have got inches. They are down at the bottom as well, so if you prefer going from the bottom, you can do that. You've got your finger guard here as well. And then what you've got here, now this is of course relating then to the question that we had from our Empress Dina here, saying it's struggling to actually pull it out. So what you need to do is, sometimes, most cases, it will just pull out, but sometimes it can be a little bit of a struggle, like you can see here. And that's because what you're going to want to do is you're wanting to then just push down. Can you see how we've got that little bit of a spring there? So if we go into there, so push down, so if I go that way as well, there we go. So we're going to go push down and pull out. So you're just going to see that it clips in. So again, push down and then pull out. And then all that we're going to do is we're going to extend that. That will automatically jump upwards so that it's in line. You've got a little foot here that just pulls out. So as we layer that down, that now stays completely flush. If you don't put that leg in place, so if I put it back, it's just going to fall down. So I think maybe the main question, or the main part of your question, Christine, is the fact is that you're not able to pull it out. So you just need to then push down, pull out, and then you can just pull the leg down at the bottom. That's now going to be completely and utterly flush. Everything stands exactly the same for the small. The only difference, you don't have an extended leg here, but you've still got the grids, you've still got the measurements, you've still got that scoring tool here. Now, what I am going to answer before anyone asks, because I know many of you will, or at least someone will, is, Craig, when I'm using the arm, if I go like this, now, should stay in place. Please, please, please do be careful if it stays in place, and I'll explain why in a moment, because it's uber sharp, but it's not just a normal sharp kind of cutting tool. But what sometimes will happen is, let's see if it will happen. So if I go that far, see how the arm is just folding, it's just automatically closing down. You don't actually want that. You do want it to stay in place, and it's a little bit more of a safety feature. So if you find that you're lifting the arm and it's still just automatically falling down, what you're going to want to do is just turn it down, turn it round, and this little nut that we can see here, you just want to tighten it ever so slightly. It only has to be a fraction, just a teeny little bit. Put it this way, if you do it too much, all that's going to happen is you ain't going to be able to lift that arm, so you'll just have to untighten it. But there's nothing wrong, it's just with all that motion up and down, over time, sometimes what can happen is it can loosen, so you just need to give it a little bit of a tight. You don't have to buy a new one, it's not broken, nothing wrong. Tighten it, and that's you good to go. You don't have to self-sharpen either. You don't have to sharpen, because it's self-sharpen, and that is of course where you've got that metal on metal down at the side here. Now, whereas I was saying about our actual blade, and I'm saying blade because what this has come from, and this is where Leanne has sourced here, it's not come from, you know, a manufacturer that does other guillotines, paper trimmers, knives, etc., etc. She's actually gone to a sword manufacturer. And that is why as well, even George forgot about that. It's just like, oh yeah, it's so cool. Forgot about that. you've actually got that at a little bit of an angle there. Now you think of a samurai sword, it's at an angle, isn't it? So as it comes down and then at the angle and slices through your cardstock or through the medium, that is that same action that you're getting. So instead of it being hit flush from, of course, the cutting implement onto your card, you're gliding it through at that angle there. That is why you're going to get that perfect cut every single time. To prove that, if I come in here and I'm just going to line up here and then cut. And we always say this shows where you've got that perfect cut. Because if I go and match them tip to tip, there is no overhang, there's no bit that's a little bit wider than the other. That is bang on. But what it'll also do as well is if I move that out the way and I do the teeniest of slithers. Look at that. Full slither. It is like a teeny bit of thread. Let's see how much can I push it. Oh, look at that. Look at that. It's like a hair. Look at that. That's that thin. You just seen it a minute ago. I snapped that myself. It's that thin. Look, that is how incredibly sharp that our guillotine. I'm going to keep referring back to exactly the same as the small one. It's just the size that's different. So that is how incredible our guillotine is. Now, have I used and tried other guillotines in the past? Absolutely. Are they brilliant? Absolutely. Are they amazingly fantastic like ours? No, they're not. That is because we've gone to the sword manufacturing. So when it comes to this, what we've got is we've got our mats and layers. I have been asked, if I'd been given a penny for every time I've been asked, how do you do your mats and layers? I would be like Ben and be a millionaire. Trust me, I really, really would. I do them all on my guillotine. I do them all at 1/4 of an inch increments. So if I just do a simple square, so if I just bring in some white card and some black cardstock here, let's say for instance, what is going to be let's say for instance, my pattern paper. Actually, tell you what I will do. I'm going to use this shortly with the craft knife. So that is, that is just a little bit shy than 6 by 6. So I can show you exactly what I want to show you, I'm going to trim this down to that nearest 1/4 of an inch. So we've got our cardstock, our main background, our topper, whatever it is, which is here at 5 3/4 by 5 3/4. So if I go in with my cardstock, now this could be our black or white, it could be our Centura Pearl, it could be our glitter, mirror card, whatever it is, and all that I'm then going to do is I'm going to go up to the next notch up, so that is the next 1/4 of an inch. So that, of course, is 5 3/4. So if I go right up to that 6 inch, and here's something that not a lot of people know. See how, for instance, we've got that 6 inch. Really, within that gap, within that chamber, that's maybe about 1 millimetre or so wide. The true measurement is to the right-hand side of that 6 inch. So some people ask, is it to the left-hand side? Is it to the right? The true measurement is to that right-hand side of that little channel there. So if I just go to that right-hand side and then cut, turn it around, and then cut, if I bring my topper in, that is how I get my perfect mat and layer. I always do them with the guillotine. You can then, of course, come along, let's say the next one. So say I wanted to do another one, but it doesn't have to be 1/4 of an inch. I could go 1/2 an inch. So if that was, the black layer was 6, this one, I could say, let's say 6 1/2. 6 1/2 turn, 6 1/2 turn, bring this one in. Now, I've also got my perfect mat and layer, but it is a little bit thicker because I've been following the grids. And you can do that every single time. You will always get that perfect mat and layer. And that is how I get my perfect mat and layer. It is always, 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 always with the guillotine. And that is the main thing that I always get asked. You know, the two Debbies do it as well. You know, what about the actual mats and layers? Always so perfect. How do you do it? That's exactly how I do that. What I want to do just while I'm here as well, I did have a question on my Facebook page earlier on. I'm going to go on there because I do want to actually name check the lady who specifically asked that question earlier on when I gave you the heads up. And it is about, so I've got here our Crafter's Companion mount board, but the question was actually regarding, I think it's Sizzix's version of mount board. Jennifer, I thought it was Jennifer Shore, but I thought I better just check. Jennifer was asking, I've got the large guillotine and I've always wanted to know, will it cut the Sizzix mat board? Haven't risked it yet as I don't want to damage the guillotine. I know they say never assume. I am assuming the Sizzix mat board is like our mount board. That's what I'm assuming. If it is the case, yes it is. It'll cut, no problem. So all that you need to do is go into your measurements and then you will need to give it a little bit more of an oomph. But yes, cuts absolutely perfectly, no problem at all. So whether it is that large one or whether you're going to go in with, of course, our small one, like so, yeah, absolutely cuts, no problem. So that's our Crafter's Companion mount board. So Jennifer, if the Sizzix mat board that you're referring to is on that same lines as mount board, then absolutely it will, no problem whatsoever. So that is now essentially the basics of our guillotine that has been covered. And that was the main point of the guillotine that I wanted to show. It's always the main question that I get, always mats and layers, mats and layers, mats and layers. What I can, let's actually just show you briefly. Let's say, for instance, you want to do your own, let's say, 5x5 card blank. So I've got a piece of our A4 card. What I can do is I can go right to the edge of where it would cut. I can then take my scoring tool and I can then score at that 5-inch mark. I can then fold that in half. I can also come along and then give that a burnish, pop that one back, and because it's from the sword manufacturing, it means that you can then, of course, cut multiple layers. So this is 2 layers of 300 GSM. So if I go back to that 5-inch, I cut off that edge, turn it around, cut. So now I've got my 5x5 card blank, where I've then scored it on my guillotine and then, of course, created my own card blank. So you've got the scoring, you've got the measurement, and then you've got that secured knowledge that you've got the most incredible, in my personal opinion, you cannot get a better cut when it's come from a sword manufacturing of your samurai swords. So that, in a whole, is the best ways or the most useful ways and the most questions asked when it comes from the guillotine. So everything that I've just said there covers the large guillotine and the small guillotine. The only difference with the small guillotine is you can't necessarily do your bigger cardstock because of the size. Other than that, everything else stands. So we're going to go in a moment to have a look at our V-blade paper trimmer. And I've got some comments, got a couple of questions come through. So let's see, we got to the last one was Louise's question. Veronica is saying, hello folks, this is so good having these shows and that they're for keeps. Looking forward to this show today. Absolutely, save it in your playlist, you've got it for whenever you want. Ash Campbell on Facebook is saying, I have the small guillotine, my most used cutting tool. And that's the thing, if you do lots of small projects, then of course what you can do is you can then just work with the smaller one. If you don't do large projects, you don't need the large one. The small one does its job. Trudy Beckham is saying, oh, didn't realise there was a little foot. Yeah, stabilises it. So you've got that little foot at the end. Crafted Not Grafted by Hilary is saying, hi everyone, who knew there was a leg there? I've had my guillotine 2.5 years. Did you not know there was the extended leg on the guillotine? Now you do. See, there you go. How useful are these shows? V on YouTube is saying, I've been wondering about the extension on the guillotine too. Thanks for the answer. You're welcome. And we've got Michelle Knits for you is saying, I still have not sharpened my guillotine. It's been over a year. You don't need to. You don't need to. It's that good that it sharps every single time that you cut. You don't need to. Adrienne is saying, thank you for the tip, Craig. Just tighten my arm on my guillotine. Much, big capital letters, better. Awesome, brilliant. We've also got, V is also saying, this is such useful information. I'm so glad. I knew you guys would love this sort of show because, it's, as I said at the start, it's one that I've been wanting to do for ages. Lynn Morton on YouTube saying, I hold the paper guard every time I use the guillotine, but the paper always moves at the bottom. What are you doing wrong? Distance with your finger and your thumb. So what you're going to want to do, you might be going in. So if we put this in here, you might be holding it like there, or maybe like there, or maybe you're going in like there. What you want to do, spread your fingers across. So you want to make sure that you're securing as much as you can. That's going to then hold it at the top, hold it at the bottom. It ain't going to move, and you're going to get that cut. So just make sure you're going to, like for instance, this bit, if we're cutting it that way, all you would need to do is just hold it within that space of where, of course, your cardstock is. So make sure that you're securing it as far as you can. We've also got Stephen Nicole saying, can you use any replacement blades on a paper trimmer? When you say any, I'm going to say no, because all brand of paper trimmer blades can be different. You know, ours are different from Hunky Dory Crafts. Hunky Dory Crafts, ours is different from Tonic Studios. It's different to, of course, Sizzix's. And I mean that by visually, size-wise, they are all different. Our one, you can use your Violet Studio replacement blades of their paper trimmer. You can use it with ours. And likewise, you can use our cutting blade in with the Violet Studio. Essentially, they are identical. One's purple in Crafter's Companion, one's gold in Violet Studios. So those blades you can use, but when it comes to other brands, you'll notice they're all different. Same with Fiskars, they're all different blades, so just keep that one in mind. A couple more before we go in with the actual paper trimmer. We've got Catherine Gordon is saying, I've used a guillotine for years, didn't think I needed a paper trimmer. How wrong was I? Bought one a couple of months back and I use it all the time. Don't know how I got on without it. And I'm going to tell you why, anyone that's in doubt, why you need one. Wendy Macbeth is saying, the extended arm on my guillotine is floppy. Is there a way to tighten it? Not when it comes to the extended arm. What you want to just make sure, of course, is you can always go back to the beginning of this show. If you save it in your playlist or that, just want to make sure that it's pushed down, pulled out, but make sure it's leveled out when it comes to, of course, the actual foot that then just knocks down. If it's still got a little bit of motion, just have a look, just check underneath, because there'll be that spring action that enables it to then spring down and pull out. So just make sure that's still in play, but give that one a shot. Right, our V-blade paper trimmer. Why does every single paper crafter need one of these within the stash? That is because it frames your card, it guts your card. A lot of people don't like the word gutted, doesn't bother me in the slightest. It's just a term, it's an easy, quick term that everyone knows, and I think everyone knows it because they don't like, or not everyone, but a lot of people don't like the term gutting. But if you say gutting your cardstock, most crafters will know exactly what that means, and that's taking out the center. So first and foremost, the V-blade paper trimmer, in essence, it does do what the guillotine does. The only difference, of course, is it's not a sword manufacturer. It is, of course, your V-blade. So this is the cutting implement here. Now, what a lot of people don't realise is, if I hold it just at the tip so you can see, so can you see here and here, you've then got a little embossed line left and right. You've also got an embossed line there, little notch there, and one at the top. They actually serve a purpose, and I'll talk you through that in a minute. See that little embossed triangle? That also serves a purpose. What that means, directly right underneath that is the exact point of that blade there. So if you want to know that exact position and point of your cardstock, you're just looking at that little notch there, and then you're just going to then close the arm, which I'll show you, and then that blade, that point of the blade, is right aligned underneath there. So that's what that little notch there is for. And you can just replace them, just pop them out, slide them back in. So centimetres, inches, you can do all your cutting like I showed you when it came to the guillotine. The difference is, of course, it's the blade, not the samurai sword arm, and then we can cut. Now, to prolong the length of your blade, there's a few things that you can do. You could either, to start with, always cut top to bottom. So next time you cut, you go in and then go up to the top and then go along, and then next time you cut, do this. Well, I think I cut up there, but I did cut because it's automatic, because I do it the way I'm away to show you in a minute. But if you want to prolong your blade, what you can do is either always cut in one direction, and then what you can do is either change. You could either change to always going upwards, so then that means that you're getting that even cut. Or if you want to turn the blade around, but you always want to cut from the top, what you can do is come down to the bottom where there's a little channel here, and then this just pops out like so, and then turn it around, pop it back in, and then you can go back to always cutting downwards. Now, you've got that option, always options, but what I do, I personally think this is a lot easier, but it's personal preference, and that is I get into the habit of going up, down, up, down. So I'll cut up, next time I'll cut down, next time I'll cut up. So that means what we're doing, whichever way you're using it, you're giving each side of that blade. So if I lift this one out again, because it's a triangle, it's a tipped triangle, that means then that you're going to be able to get that same use from the left-hand side or the right-hand side. If you only constantly cut downwards, you're going to end up blunting it. You're then going to waste it, because then you've not used that other side as well. So what I would always say, if you can, if you start by cutting up, down, up, down, up, down. You've got the options. I've given you a couple of options as how you can, of course, extend the use of that blade. You've got that arm that folds down, measurements at the top, channel down the middle, but the most incredibly useful item, or the incredibly useful tool within this, is something I'm going to show you just in a couple of minutes after we come back from this break. So don't miss what I'm going to show you when it comes to gutting.
I love Crafters TV, not for their amazing products, but for other reasons. Firstly would be the community. Crafters TV brings everyone together from different corners of the world. It's a place where we can all share our love for Crafters Companion, ideas, and get inspiration from each other. Learning inspiration comes from the demonstrators. It doesn't matter if you're experienced or new, the demonstrators will always explain and help, so we can get the best from the Crafters Companion's amazing products. But most important reason is the personal connection with the presenters and the demonstrators. For me, they have become my friend, creating a personal connection and making you feel part of a crafting family. And for me, this is the most meaningful. I wouldn't be the crafter I am today without Crafters TV, so thank you.
Welcome to Club Inspire, the Crafters Companion community where you can feed your crafty obsession. Join our fantastic loyalty program today and receive 250 points to help get you started. Other benefits to joining Club Inspire include special members-only sales, and you can receive discounts or exclusive access to products, and even free gifts. You will receive 1 point for every pound, dollar or euro that you spend. And the more points you receive, the more benefits you'll unlock. See if you can craft your way up to our ultimate Club Inspire tier, Platinum, where you'll enjoy the very best discounts and rewards that we offer. As you keep climbing through the club, you can actually reach Platinum Plus and even Platinum for life. The more points you collect, the more you will be rewarded within our amazing special Club Inspire community. So, what are you waiting for? Sign up, join the club and start rewarding yourself today.
Hi Crafty Peeps, Victoria here. I love Crafters TV because it shows you the best tips and tricks on how to use your crafty stash. It also connects you with people from all over the world, and nowhere else on Shopping TV you have the opportunity to live chat with other people from the other side of the world, for example, and laugh with them and be there for them when they're having a tough time. But also know that when you're having a tough time, you can switch on Crafters TV and you can go on the live chat, and you know people will be there for you as well. And when you're having a bad time and not feeling well, when you're a bit down in the dumpster and you know Crafters TV is going to be on, there's going to be some laughters and there's going to be some fun. And the banter going on between the demonstrators and the demonstrators is just really fun and really good, and sometimes the only laugh you will get when you're not feeling well. So that's personally why I love Crafters TV the most. It's the connection, the personal connection with everyone that's involved in Crafters TV and all the other crafters out there. So thank you, Sarah, from the bottom of my heart for coming up with Crafters TV and for bringing all the good fun and all the crafty tips to us. Yes, thank you. Keep up the good work and I love you. Bye.
I am so glad that this has been really, really useful to a lot of you. Annie Richards is saying, well, I didn't know that about the blades. And then that's it. It's nice, you know, because of course, when it comes to all our Crafters TV shows, as much as we will always try and endeavour to answer whatever questions you come through, sometimes either maybe we've missed it, or in most cases, maybe we've not necessarily explained it in the way that you were asking. So it's just nice to have this kind of dedicated section. Of course, anyone that's just joining, it's just me, it's just you. We've got Jamie in the gallery, but we've also got Georgie. He's in the gallery as well. He is back. So when it comes to outside, we've got Jake outside. And then, of course, we've got Becky on socials. So what we're going to do is, got one, Jeannie is saying, Craig, do you think standing up while you're cutting makes a difference? Do you know something? The only time I stand and craft is when I'm on air. When I'm at home, I always sit. For me, I'm fine sitting. The only time I may actually sometimes stand is, funny enough, if I'm needing to cut something like the mountboard on the Guillotine, I'll maybe sometimes stand, because don't worry, if you're cutting mountboard, you do have to give it that little bit of a welly. You're not going to break it, but you do have to give it that little bit of an oomph. So sometimes you might actually find that easier standing to do it, to put that little bit of weight to. Other than that, I would say it's personal preference. Say it depends if maybe you've got arthritis in your legs, your feet, something like that, or whatever it is that you've got. Try it both ways, stand and sit, see what you prefer. I can't even say a percentage. I'm not sure how many prefer to stand over how many prefer to sit. But yeah, absolutely. I think cutting-wise, I think it doesn't make a difference whether you stand or sit. It's just, of course, the way that you do it. And if you feel uncomfortable, what I would say is, if you are cutting cardstock and you're standing and you feel uncomfortable, I think then maybe there's potential to not get a clean cut because you're not feeling comfortable doing it. Same with sitting. If you're kind of scrunched up and you don't actually kind of feel comfortable cutting, you might not get the perfect cut. So make sure that you're feeling comfortable. We're going to go into, of course, the actual gutting of the card before we go into the actual cutting with the blades. We've got one, Jay Presley is saying, please can you tell us the measurement, please tell us what the measurements are on the metal plate. I find it difficult to determine where there's a 1/4 inch and 1/2 inch because the metal plate is in the way. I think you're meaning when it comes to the guillotine here. So if I come into here, so here I think this is what you're meaning, of course, because where you've got that 1 inch, where the actual line, the embossed lines ends, that's your 3/4 of an inch. And then where you've got just underneath that panel, the strip, that's where your 1/2 inch. So right where those notches end, that's your 3/4 of an inch. And then really just underneath, what you might want to do is go in with a permanent pen and just use your ruler, something like that, and just mark at the top where is 1/4 of an inch, where is 1/2 an inch. And then, as I say, you have got your 3/4 of an inch there. So yeah, what I also will say as well, also use the other areas on your guillotine. What I mean by that is you will sometimes see me using the edge of this metal silver. You'll sometimes see me using that as a guide to cut. Where we've got this ridge here that I'm holding on to, sometimes I'll use that as a form to measure with. So see that there, so there's the ridge just there. So sometimes I'll use that directly underneath as a way to measure as well. So you don't always just have to follow the measurements, you can have a look. But yeah, as far as the actual like kind of 1/4 of an inch, 1/2 an inch, you might just want to go in with a permanent marker. Right, I'll just answer these two and then we'll crack on. Tara is saying, cutting with a guillotine is the only thing I stand to do when I'm crafting, just to get the pressure, usually for multiple layers, kind of as I was talking about before. So, yep, that's a great one. Thanks for letting us know, Tara. We've got Crafted Not Grafting by Hilary is saying, I sit to use the paper trimmer and stand to use the guillotine. Cindy Connie is saying, I'm a sitter when I'm cutting, definitely. So there we go. We've got a couple that will say, we'll sit with the paper trimmer, stand with the guillotine. And I completely understand why, because of course with the guillotine, you're having to, of course, give it that kind of waft with the handle. So yeah, it's just cottoned on there to George what I was saying. So I think a lot of people will stand, because if you're sitting with the guillotine, you might find it easier. I know I'm going to go out of shot here just for a moment, but you might find it easier to actually stand and then cut, whereas of course with the paper trimmer, like I'm about to use right now, all that you're doing is you're rocking back and forwards. So hopefully all of that. We've still got just about 20 minutes or so left. So if you've got anything else specific you want to ask, fire them through, but we are going to go in with what I absolutely love about a V-Blade paper trimmer. And that is, and we're going to use this for example. Now let's just say I am running very, very low on my black cardstock. Or my white cardstock, let's say the black cardstock. So I need to save as much. Now I'm actually wasting a lot of black cardstock, and really I'm wasting a lot of white card. I'll be honest with you, I very rarely will gut white or black cardstock because I've got access to a lot of it. I'm very lucky, of course, with having Crafter's Companion cardstock. But let's just say, for argument's sake, that I am wanting to save some of this cardstock, but I want to have a perfect cut. Now, I can, if I wanted to, on my glass mat, I could just cut with my craft knife all the way round. I could use nesting dies, but let's say I wanted to have a perfect frame cut. This is where we're going to use the measurements on our paper trimmer. So I'm going to turn it this way just now. So can you see on the arm, you've got all your inches that run all the way down here. What we've then also got as well is we've then got our measurements that run all the way throughout. So let's say, for instance, I wanted a, let's say, a 1/2 inch frame all the way around. I want to savor most of that. What we're going to do is I'm going to come in. Now remember, that is your cutting channel. So I'm going to come to that 1/2 inch, which is here. And then what we're going to do is I'm not going to close it completely, because if I close it completely, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start cutting. So I'm just going to lift that up to the top. I'm making sure that that is at that 1/2 inch mark, and I'm following the line. And then what we're going to do is, I'm not going to close it just yet, but remember how I said 1/2 inch? This is where, and I know I'm doing a bit of back and forth, but this is where now we're going to focus on that 1/2 inch mark on the arm. So we're going to, let me just realign that up again. And then, remember as well how I said on your actual V-blade, you've got that little emboss at the side there. you're going to want to have that parallel to that 1/2 inch mark. So I'm just making sure that's aligned. So I'm going to come all the way down, and I'm making sure that notch is parallel to that 1/2 inch mark. So I've gone and moved out of the way, so let's close that down again. So I'm nice and parallel, so I'm going to close that down, and then I'm going to come all the way down to here. Now, because this is 6 inch, what that means is I want to come to 5.5, because remember, I want that 1/2 inch. So I'm going to come all the way down to 5.5. And again, what I'm doing is I'm making sure that notch that's on the side of my blade here is parallel to that 5.5. And then I'm going to lift, I'm going to turn, I'm going to do that again. So I'm going to go up to that same 1/2 inch mark. This is where I would say, remember how I say I cut up and down, up and down, up and down. So I'm back at that 5.5 inch mark. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go all the way up. And then once again, we're going to stop at the 1/2 inch mark. I'm going to lift, and then I'm going to turn, repeating the step. We're going in at the 1/2 inch. I'm then just going to make sure that I'm parallel to that 1/2 inch. Once I am, I'm going to then just commit and press, and then we're going to come down to that 5.5. I'm going to lift, turn, and I'm purposely doing 1/2 inch because I want you to see how thin you can go. You can go thinner if you want, but you can go as thick as you want. And then I'm already at the 5.5, so we're just going to hold down up to that 1/2 inch. We're going to lift, and then what we've got here is we've got that perfect frame that will then have our matting layer, which of course no one is going to know that you are missing. I tell you what, because I'm going to cut into that just shortly. So let's just, oh no, because I trimmed that one down, didn't I, to 5 3/4. So let's go. You can see there, no one would know that you are missing a bit of that black. You've now got a full piece, which is 5 by 5, that you can be using elsewhere. Some people will say, well, it might take a little bit of that structure away, that weight away. Well, in my eyes, it won't, because you've still got the structure of your 300 GSM card. You've still got the structure of the 180 GSM card. You're probably going to put a sentiment on. You're probably going to put glue and glitter on. You're probably going to put some gems and that on. That all creates structure, so you're not actually going to lose it. I'm going to do that once more. Now, would I, me personally, would I gut both of these layers together? No, I wouldn't. I'm going to do it just for the purpose of showing you. If I've got 2 mats and layers, I would tend to gut one, not both, but that's entirely up to you. Let's say this time, let's say I wanted a really nice, thick one, let's say 1.5 inch frame. So I want to frame maybe cross-stitching that I've done. So everything I said there a moment ago stands. The only difference is I'm just changing the measurement. So therefore, I'm going to 1.5 inches. So we're going to go to 1.5. Not going to close this just yet. I like to just hold it with my finger there. I want to make sure I'm at that 1.5 inch mark, which I'm there, perfect. I can then close that down. Now, 1.5 inch mark, that then means, because this card is 6.5, that means I need to come up 1.5, which means I'm coming to the 5 inch. So we're coming down to 5. I'm going to lift, turn, and then if I close it, I should still be at the 5.5, the 5 inch, sorry, which I am. And then we're going to go up to the 1.5 so that we are parallel, lift, turn, and then we're repeating that step. Now, I'm doing it within squares, but it could be rectangles if you want to, could be hexagons if you want to, it could be absolutely anything. You can just play. So we can then lift. There we go. I've now got that perfect frame. So that could frame my cross stitch. That could actually frame something like that. So yes, it's gutting your cardstock, but what you can also do is you can also frame your toppers. You can frame your sentiments, and you cannot do that with a guillotine, because the guillotine, you've got that direct cut, start to bottom. That is why I always believe that every single paper crafter should have a V-blade paper trimmer. As I said at the start of the show, these aren't necessarily selly shows. Have a look on the website. If they're out of stock at the moment, keep an eye on. I'm not sure if you can still put in the details to be alerted when it's back in, but look on the website, .co.uk.com.au, small guillotine, large guillotine, paper trimmer, replacement blades, and then what we're going to do just before the end of the show is the cutting blade or craft knife versus the swivel knife. And this is where, and the reason I ended up bringing in the glass mat and the self-healing mat is because I would say it's quite important when it comes to your craft knife and then your swivel knife. Before we go into that last bit there, Tara Baldwin saying, what a fantastic show. Thank you so much, Craig Laird, Crafter's Companion. You are very welcome and thank you so much. We've got Tara saying, gutting with the guillotine is the only thing that I do when I'm cutting, just to get the pressure, usually for multiple layers. So yeah, a lot of people standing for guillotine, sitting for paper trimmer. We've also got crafting, not grafting. I sit, I think I read your one, didn't I? Not that it matters, but I sit to use the paper trimmer, stand for the guillotine. Louise Burton, now I understand. I never noticed the measurements on the right-hand side. You are the same as so many people until you kind of are explained the actual measurements. Then, of course, you don't realise that they actually serve a purpose. So I'm so glad that helped. Ash is saying, awesome, great demo. Wasn't sure how to use the paper trimmer for removing the middle. Awesome, there you go. Because as I said, we could just quickly go in with a craft knife or quickly cut out the scissors. But if you do it neatly, it means that you've then got neater layers that you can then be using elsewhere if you want to. So sorted. And then we've got Zoe Carver saying, I use the right side numbers when gutting my card on the trimmer. Just shows us there are different ways to do things. Find that works. So just very, very briefly, the reason, and I know exactly what you mean, Zoe, the reason that I use the measurements on the left-hand side here is because if I use the measurements on the right-hand side, I could only gut a frame of up to 1.5 inches. So I could only go to 1.5 inches and then cut my frame. So I turn that around. I'm not obviously square, but if I come down, I can only go as far as 1.5 inches. Whereas if I use the numbers on the left-hand side, my frame, 3 inch, 4 inch, could be as thick as I wanted it to be. So that's why that's why I've gone to the left-hand side. I know exactly what you mean, Zoe. Before a lot of years, I would always do it on the right-hand side. So bigger framework. Right, so craft knife, swivel versus your straight craft knife. Now, what I would say, without contradicting myself, although I am, I will 9 times out of 10 always use my glass mat here. What you will find, a lot of people may use their straight craft knife with the self-healing mat and the swivel with the glass mat. And I'll explain why in a moment. Of course, you can use either or. The glass mat, you get a nice, smooth flow. Whether, of course, you're using the straight or whether you're using the swivel, you've got a nice continuous flow. Your self-healing mat hugs your blade. So instead of getting a nice flow, you've got more protection. Because you're cutting into it, it's holding the blade, and therefore it's enabling you to get more of a straight cut without the aid of something like a ruler, because your self-healing mat is gripping your blade and then therefore it's guiding. That is why most people will use the straight knife with a self-healing mat but won't use a swivel, because the swivel, you want to have the movement, whereas the self-healing mat is gripping the blade and it's stopping it from having the movement. So that is why most will use them in those ways. It's entirely up to you. There's no right or wrong way. Hopefully, in a nutshell, that's explained the difference between the straight and the swivel versus the glass mat and the self-healing mat. So what we can do within here, your craft knife, mats and layers, gutting your cardstock, so many ways that you can be using your normal craft knife. With, of course, the swivel, what we're going to do here is, if I wanted to have, for instance, this nice straight edge, what I could do is I could go in with my straight craft knife, and then I can come down point to point, and of course my self-healing mat is kind of holding and gripping, so I'm not needing the aid of something like a ruler. And I'm just going to go right through the characters, because this is more the straight edges that I'm wanting to show you. And we can go all the way around, and then we can then just follow all the way point to point. Now don't get me wrong, with the swivel craft knife, you can absolutely do it with the straight edges, but then what we've got is we've got that perfect cut with having those straight lines. If I wanted to do something like the swivel, if I was to go onto my craft mat again, this is kind of holding and hugging. So it's, the purpose of it is to swivel, but the self-healing mat is stopping it from swiveling around, because it's holding it in that direction. That is why what we tend to do is we tend to go in with our swivel, and you can see how it just glides all the way around. Again, I'm going to go around the character because it's about the shape. So we're going round that oval, and because I'm on my glass mat, what's happening is it's gliding on the glass mat. And for me, I find it easier to actually move my cardstock, but that is why now we've got that ease of cut, because it is swiveling. Whereas, if I was, and again, this is not wrong, you can absolutely use a straight craft knife for anything that's circular here, but what you're having to do is you're having to drag it, because the blade itself isn't moving. So I can already see I'm not doing this on purpose. I genuinely amn't getting a perfect cut, because it's getting stuck with the straight point of my craft knife, because it's a circle. Whereas if you wanted more of that perfect one, this is where something with rounded edges, you're going to want to go in with something like the swivel, so then it's swiveling while you're cutting, it's moving, because it's the swivel, so we can just go all the way around, follow into place there, and then just pop that out. And now, so that is a little bit rougher, whereas that is a whole lot smoother, because you've got that flow and then you've got that glide. So recapping on that one, I'm going to show you how to replace them as well, because that's also a question. So we're going to go in with, of course, and this is kind of what you'll tend to find people will use with when it comes to crafting, and that is straight craft knife with the self-healing mat, and then a glass mat with the swivel. You will see me use that with the glass mat, but hopefully I've now been able to explain why or where you would use the straight craft knife against the swivel craft knife, and why and where would you use it over the self-healing mat and then the glass mat. So it's up to you how you use it, but that is how and why, or the intention, so to speak, of your swivel and straight. Also, this was a question we get asked all the time, and it was a question I got asked earlier on, so let's go in and just show you this. Ash Brown, does the glass mat not get damaged by the craft knife? Never, ever, 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 ever will that damage. You will only damage it if you drop it. And it is shatterproof. So if you drop it, it will break, but it won't shatter because of that shatterproof backing. But you cannot damage your glass mat with your cutting tool. So hopefully that's helped you there. But yeah, so all that you're going to want to do is where you've got the purple tip here, you're going to want to just then hold that. What I tend to do as well is I'll hold the blade, you can see that one, not the sharp side. I'll hold it, and then all that you're going to do is you're just going to then twist. I would go in the wrong direction, wouldn't I? Am I? No, I am. There we go. So we're just going to twist. And what's happening, as you're twisting, those little 4 points, that opens up. So then all that you're then going to do is put your new one in. So slot that in. Again, I like to hold it. And then I'm just going to then tighten by twisting around like so. And then once that's completely tight, that is it now in place. Of course, got the cap. And of course, this one, this is exactly the same. I wouldn't hold the tip, but you can see it's really easy to then just open up. And then it should, if it doesn't just fall out, be careful if you're doing that. You're just going to then just grab that. He says, let's just go in and then just pop that one out. Like so, he says, come on. Do you know something? It's been a long, long time. Is it that way? There we go, it's that way. It's been a long time since I've done one, so there you go. So that's it there. So you're going to take your new one, you're going to pop it from the back, just let that set through so it's just protruding out, and then you're going to then twist all the way down, pop the protective cap on, and then that's how you're going to then change it. Gosh, what a quick hour. I'm going to say this right now, and you can quote me on this. This is one of my best and favourite, not just craft together shows, but kind of educational show that I've done. I've said in the past I could talk for hours on our cutting implements and our guillotine. Least I've then, George, I could easily do another hour. If it wasn't for the fact that I've got Final Destination booked at the cinema in an hour's time, I would be staying on. But thank you so much for all the lovely comments here. We've got, where did we leave off? Stephanie Theodore says, I need more practice with the craft knives, but this is absolutely makes sense, using the right tool for the right job, absolutely. We've got Chica saying, that's why I never got on with the swivel knife. Now I know. There we go. We've got Cindy Connie, oh no, you're saying the same. Now I know what the swivel knife is used for. Alexander saying, great demo with the swivel. I can't get on with it. I don't use it a lot. You'll very, very rarely see me using it. If it's little fussy cutting, I'll tend to use my little snippy scissors, but that is where you can be using the actual swivel craft knife. Mary Broxton is saying, I'm glad you showed us the swivel and how to use it. I have one and it's been in the drawer for over a year. At least now that you know. Whether you actually use them in the future, that's of course something that you're going to decide, but at least now you know how to use it and the best way to use it to get that perfect cut. Stephanie Theodos, what else might we use a craft knife for when paper cutting? Your mats and layers, you can do your gutting. If you do your quilling, you can then cut, of course, create your quilling strip. Your Crafter's Companion ruler does have that metal edge that you can cut along. So yeah, you can use, I predominantly use it just, of course, for cutting. Trudy is saying, your education is gold. Awesome, thank you, Trudy. Jeannie is saying, you know what's funny, Craig? I have been crafting for years and never knew any of this. We always learn something. I'm always learning every day, even from here. Rightio, it is time to say goodbye for the day. We're going to be back tomorrow. I am back for the second show and then another one. I've got 2 shows tomorrow. I actually can't remember what they are. I am in tomorrow for 2 of the shows, so hopefully you can join myself and Ben. Thank you so much, of course, to Jake. Thank you so much, Becky, and thank you for all of your lovely comments. Really, really appreciated. Also to Jamie, also to George, then, of course, for all of you for watching. Add it to your playlist. Have a look on the website, .co.uk.com.eu. See what we've got in stock: guillotine, paper trimmer, placement blades, your cutting mats, your scissors, all of those things. Have a look there while you're there. Of course, as everything, you will get your Club Inspire. That's if you're in Club Inspire. Do join, because it is completely free. Right, I'm going to go, because I need to say, I'm going to the cinema. So I will see you tomorrow. Have a lovely day, have a lovely afternoon, and see you then. Doodles.